Hello everyone, welcome back. So Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's decision yesterday not to open his defense has caused like a lot of confusions among Nigerian lawyers. Yes, like a lot have been coming out to say that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu don't know what he's doing, that maybe we should check his mental health. And some people have come out to explain it like very well. The reason why Mazi Nnamdi Kanu took that decision, right? So Barrister Abubakar came out and defends Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's right to file fresh objection as the court case has turned deeply political. That Nigeria government, they are just trying to convict Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. That is the direction they are going, and Mazi Nnamdi Kanu realize like what they are trying to do. So some people are saying that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is frustrating the court process, that he just want to continue staying in detention, and people have forgotten like what Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has been going through in the hands of Nigeria government, especially in that DSS custody. Do you think that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu love to stay there forever? Like some people, I don't even get it honestly. Anyway, let me allow you guys to watch this particular insightful video from Mayego for those that do not even understand what is going on and the reason why Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is taking all these decisions. But before that, there is this particular breaking news that be shaking Nigeria. Yes, so Aso Rock is in a panic mood. It says Nigeria House of Representatives raised alarm over terrorist threat to bomb National Assembly. Hey, my people, he don't say it. Like those people that thought that it's just for ordinary Nigerians that this insecurity is going to affect. Like it's going to affect everyone. Look at right now, they are panicking just because of this particular one. It will definitely affect them directly. Like all over the internet, this is the breaking news that have been trending since today. So Nigerians are saying that when ordinary Nigerians were shouting about insecurity, they thought that they are just playing movie. Now it is coming to their domot. So this is the reason why they should not play politics with the life of Nigerians, because this insecurity, it go touch everyone. Yes, so my people, let me allow you guys to listen to Mayego and hear everything that he said concerning Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's matter. Please do well to subscribe, like the video, share it, and leave your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you so much for doing so.
About what truly happened in the ongoing trial of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu in their court today. The Nigeria media have been blowing a sort of like funny headlines all over the place. That their headlines have also got so many lawyers in Nigeria so confused. And I have been watching the reactions of a lot of them in the last few hours. There is this part of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's trial that he himself observed, and he categorically mentioned in one of his court appearances when he was speaking to the press. He said, it is either you guys are doing this deliberately by publishing misleading headlines, running with them like you just left a WhatsApp group that said, okay, go and use these headlines. You are so lazy that you come to court as judicial correspondents. If you are a journalist and then you attend, you are attached to the court. Your job as a judicial correspondent is not just about what people say. Most of it requires you doing your own background check of what exactly happened, because that's why you are there. And if you have journalists in court, right, whose most, their only intention of attending this trial is not really to expose, right, all of the judicial abuses going on, including the abuses of some of the section of your laws, as Nnamdi Kanu is pointing out. So they are just there for sensational news, headlines. Nnamdi Kanu said, the court denied, the court this, the court that. So on Mayegun's Diary Political, we are not court. And I am not here to hold a court for Nnamdi Kanu. I am here to help those of you who want to know the truth. And much more, those of you who have been following this for quite a long time. You deserve to know what is really going on. Plus what you know, what you have heard, and maybe plus this. you'll be able to have your own personal kind of like understanding and maybe conclusion. So before we get into it, I need to remind us all that from my own perspective, having been somebody who has been following this for quite a long time, and I'm not following the sensational headlines. I mean, follow. Here you get. So I can tell you this for free, that the position of Nnamdi Kanu, the Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, is that there is no court in Nigeria that can try him if they are obeying their own laws. And the argument that, he submitted a no-case trial. Do you get me now? And a no-case trial was rejected, meaning the court says, oh, he must actually put up a defense. So that's why we are probably going to it now. So Nnamdi Kanu has nothing to prove to everyone. He's there, right, to show to them that if you by any chance, just for a second, take a moment to reread these sections of your own laws, you realize that all these things you are doing, all these things, you are wasting your time. So I have seen lawyers, some of them who are very much, very kind of like vocal on social media. They've been expressing their disappointment. Who gave him this kind of advice? The court gave it first. You sack your lawyers. You said you want to defend yourself. You've got witnesses. Now you are saying that, you are not, they do not have any legal standing to actually try you. So what are you actually doing? I'm not a lawyer. I'll tell you what happened in their court today and give you precedents as well. So the last time when Mazi Nnamdi Kanu appeared in their court, which was last Friday, he told the court that he couldn't really represent himself within the time frame given to him by the court. Because number one, he needs to have his case file for the first time handed to him to actually look into it, study it, because the charges they charged him for, what they charged him for the past 10 years has been treason. And he's defeated them in court already. So I want to see what you are charging me for and all of that and the legal backing, the section of your law that you are using, relying on to charge me before I can put up my defense and call my witnesses, because that is when I'm going to know if you actually have any legal ground to actually charge me. Not all this stuff you are putting in the papers or in their media. This is what I want to see in my case file. So they gave him his case file, I believe, and over the weekend. So when he arrived in court today, right, he was expected to possibly address the court and tell the court the process of his defense, what he's going for first and next and the rest of that. Or no, Nnamdi Kanu didn't do that. What did he do? He told the judge, right, that after going through these new charges, because when they kidnapped him in 2021 from Kenya and charged him for treason, not terrorism. So when he went to court, he based his argument on, they said, they were charging him. Then they said, there is no any of his actions that they have presented so far, because he won't give them what they will use in nailing him. And what was that? What is that? Nnamdi Kanu believes that if you accuse me of something, do you get me now? The onus of proof is on you. Meaning you have to be the one to prove that I committed that crime. There's a section of your law that allows that. I'm not going to give you anything. I'm not even, in fact, going to call any witness. But you first, before that, you need to show to me that law, that treason law, that relates to what you said I did, incitement. I am using social media to incite the people. You see that word incitement is also covered under the free speech. So that is not a terrorism, it's not a treasonable offense. So you will need to prove that I have actually done something, right, treasonable in this sense. before your court. You know something? Their federal high court under Unyako, was like, okay, if Nnamdi Kanu is not going to defend himself and all of that stuff, because they couldn't show him any law in Nigeria that says, if I'm talking about referendum, if I'm talking about self-determination, there is no section of Nigerian law that criminalizes that. There's no section, nowhere written in your law that if you are talking about referendum, if you are talking about breakup of Nigeria, if you are talking about those things, right, there's no law. But Unyako was like, so based on that, he said, you can't try me. You've got no jurisdiction to try me. Considering the process of extraordinarily renditioning me, and then you are charging me for treason. No, you have no such. Unyako found him guilty and said, well, in that case, Nnamdi Kanu is guilty. I can't even remember the sentence he gave him then. So they went straight to the appeal court. At the appeal court, it can't be like say sense kind of like, came to life. The appeal court agreed with Nnamdi Kanu 100% that indeed, based on this section of your law, I'll show you some of them. Right? He is right. Even though he's not a lawyer, but yeah, he is right. He can't be tried in Nigeria. That ruling was the ruling that Nigeria failed to appeal the first 7 days or so. They waited for about 9 days before they now went to the Supreme Court and said the Supreme Court should give them the right to retry Nnamdi Kanu. Now, there's a section of your law that says he who disobey court's order cannot approach the same court for any support or any prayer. Nigeria government disobeyed their own courts. They did that, they violated their own law, but they still wanted the same court, the same law, to answer their prayer. So this is the replay. Rather than go back and charge Nnamdi Kanu with the same treasonable felony, they are now charging him for treason. So here is the argument that happened today. So Nnamdi Kanu told the judge, I said, hey, Judge, I have read through the case file, but guess what? He realized that even though a court of appeal gave me the judgment in 2022, right, that the court actually discharged me and acquitted me of all of their charges. Now, because there was no law they could use, there was no part of their law. They were making up all nonsense law, the cyber act, cyber, all those nonsense laws that are not related. However, they lost. So he's now telling them that they are charging me for terrorism now. For terrorism, this is like them changing their case again. And guess what? They made a mistake. Or maybe they didn't make a mistake. It's just part of the old John dice they put together. They are charging me under Terrorism Act of 2012, where they already have a new one. That law has been abrogated, as is no longer existing, because they've amended it in 2022. So which means the case they are charging him for terrorism right now, they are using their 2012 Terrorism Act, which under itself, right, which in itself contradicts itself based on what these guys are presenting as Nnamdi Kanu's case. Now, again, this is not a court. And also, if you get to know, I don't think Nnamdi Kanu has anything to prove to anybody, right? Because he knows that he won't get the justice in their place. The longer they continue to ignore this particular set of their own constitution, and they are trying him under that constitution, right? Under a law that doesn't exist. So how do you try somebody? You are currently trying him before a judge right now, and you said you are trying him under the 2012 Anti-Terrorism Act or something, right? But it's already amended. The law doesn't exist. So Nnamdi Kanu is now asking them that they will need to come up and say, hey, Nnamdi Kanu, we are charging you under this particular law. And all these charges, you know that when they charge you in Nigeria, right, their court will say, charge one, you, Mr. Nnamdi Kanu, on the 18th of December 2020, you did so and so in violation of the section of subsection of their, here you get. So you will need to come and tell me. And if you won't, then I've got nothing to defend, which means whatever evidence, which in itself, by the way, whatever evidence you think your 5 DSS witnesses presented, which in itself are not really much like tenable anyway, but if you want to go ahead, that statement that I incited people by asking them to fight for their rights. I incited them by telling them the reasons why Biafra had to go through a peaceful referendum is covered under free speech. And if by any reason at all that you want to actually have any conviction for that, Baba, with the time they've locked him up in their detention, it's even overspent the time. It's just a 2-year detention if you are found guilty. So it's not terrorism, it's nothing. But they are making up all this, APC did a lot of those laws, all this to gag Nigerians, scare them, you know what I mean? And most of the time, lock them up. So today in court, I'm coming back home. So today in court, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu said he's not looking forward to justice from these guys. Only God has justice. So whatever meaning, whatever interpretation you want to give to what is going on, he strongly believes that in the presence of justice, this social trial, this nonsense will fall apart like a domino. He said, God is the only one that gives justice, not these guys, not these rogues, who continues to compromise the same judicial process, right? And then say, oh, he's using a delay tactics. What's the point? He argues there, he wins you, you disobey the court order, you still lock him up. So is that justice? Is that something that, it's not saying that he's not going to put up a defense. So he wants the prosecution to come and check their own error in their own, the haste in which they want to actually have him jailed or even killed. They continue to make mistakes, like when they kidnapped him from Kenya. So he's not looking for justice from them. He's not the one there charging them. They are the one holding him, right? Illegally. Listen to this.
Where's the lying news agency of Nigeria? Are they here? Those liars and deceivers, are they here? That distort the news. You don't know what law is. You don't know what justice is. Where's the news agency of Nigeria? What are they? You don't know that God is a God of justice. You don't know that? That God in heaven is a God of justice. You don't know that?
Yeah, he was asking the journalist, where is that news agency of Nigeria? It's lying people, sending out a wrong information simply because they want to keep the narrative in the media the same. And it's so shocking that the Nigerian lawyers, some of them have been, sort of like ventilating or something like online. What it is that thing, the only thing they haven't done is to snuff life out of him. What is that thing you think they want to really do to jail him? Is that not what they are already doing illegally right now? So what is that thing that you think will happen if he says, go and do your ruling? Well, before you do that, right, I am going to share with you the section of your own law that says this. He's been denied access to fair hearing. When you accuse somebody of something in the face of the law, they are considered innocent until found guilty. You understand? Innocent until found guilty. And in order to prove that somebody has committed a crime that is a criminal offense, mostly lies on the prosecutors. And that's exactly what Nnamdi Kanu is doing. There are sections of your law, as useless as that the trashy paper called Constitution, that those lawless criminals are using to gag you. There are sections of it that still gives him all of these rights. But he's not looking forward to them to like obeying them. You know, he's not. But is there going to be a record that all of this happened? Yes, there will be records. So listen to this. Nnamdi Kanu is deriving his, new move on the following. And there has been no any counter sort of like part of the Constitution that is contrary to what I'm about to read to you right now. Nothing like, okay, if you go to section, no. Listen, they have a section 36.4a, by the way, 36.4a. Said, whenever any person is charged with a criminal offense, he shall, unless the charge is withdrawn, be entitled to a fair hearing in public within a reasonable time by a court or tribunal. They have not given Nnamdi Kanu a reasonable public hearing. So many dramas that you don't want me to kind of like go into again, by the way. So, Kanu, how is this relevant to Kanu? It guarantees a fair trial, includes this section of the Constitution, guarantees a fair trial, including the right to know the exact charges and the legal basis. Kanu argues that the charges lack this, as they rely on a repealed act, making the trial unlawful. The court must exclude invalid proceedings to uphold independence and impartiality. There's another section of that law, 36, subsection 5 of that same law, your Constitution rather. That every person who is charged with a criminal offense shall be presumed to be innocent until he is proved guilty. Why is this relevant to Mazi? Now, that also reinforces, by the way, that the prosecution must prove guilty. So it must prove a guilt beyond reasonable doubt, as Section 135 of the Evidence Act, 2011. Now, they are the ones to prove that Nnamdi Kanu committed an act of terrorism, not just this your social media copy and paste download videos that they think is actually relevant maybe to them, right? So they will need to prove more, which means Kanu's no case submission leverages this presumption, claiming no prima facie proof exists. So no defense is needed. That's his argument based on that your section of that your law. There's another one, which is 36 subsection 6a. Here it says, every person who is charged with a criminal offense shall be entitled to be informed in writing within a reasonable time of the nature of the offense. Now, how is this relevant? Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is demanding that the section of the law to fulfill this, without it, not prepare a defense, violating his right to adequate facilities. Section 36(6)d. Here is another part of your law. They say this one is, again, no, don't think, like I said, this is not a court. And we are not here to probably make any impression on you. Especially those of you that feels like, oh, you should go and be setting. No, there's no point. That is what is happening in their court. Here you get. These are not something that anybody who understands what law means should hear and ignore if they are not really fulfilled. And then you expect a fair trial, fair judgments, and all of that stuff. So they have violated their own laws. You know, another thing that actually makes this particular trial illegal is that appeal court discharged and acquitted Nnamdi Kanu. Nigerian government disobeyed it. then approached the Supreme Court, right, to stay execution. And they want the Supreme Court to give them right to go and do a retrial, which means they want to go back to the same court and go and get their own prayers against Nnamdi Kanu granted. Meanwhile, the section of their law says, if anybody disobeys any court judgment, they have lost their right to approach court on any case at all for fair for any fair hearing anymore. They've lost it. Because ordinarily it means that you do not respect the court, you do not obey the law. So if it doesn't favor you, you trash it. You pick the one that works for you. But law doesn't work like that. It is the same law that will release somebody who is a mass murderer and then jail someone who commit manslaughter. And you'll be wondering, how did that happen? Well, it is the law. But unfortunately, you have no choice. Once a court makes that pronouncement, you have to obey it. Yeah. And then you appeal it if you have the right to appeal in time. But these guys were like cherry picking, pick and choose. And they want to do the trial again in that same their court, asking for same prayer or something like a different prayer that they believe maybe the court will now grant that. So by that section of that law, they've lost that right. This whole thing is a sham. It's just a waste of time, right? Even if they come out tomorrow and make a pronouncement, Nnamdi Kanu guilty, let the media run with it. Because that is a pre-concluded sort of like end anyway. Now let me read more, right? It says here, it said, section 36, subsection 8 of your law says, no person shall be held to be guilty of a criminal offense on account of any act or omission that did not, at the time it took place, constitute such an offense, and no penalty shall be imposed by any criminal offense heavier than the one that would have been applicable at the time the offense was committed. Now, of course, I'll tell you how this is relevant and I'll explain it. So what that section simply said is that it nullifies the charges under repealed laws like the 2013 Act, as the 2022 Act changed the framework. Kanu cites these to argue the charges are retroactively invalid. So they arrested me. They said, anybody who incites public to so and so, right? This person will be charged for incitement. Okay? And then, and if that incitement leads to any form of, destruction of, or maybe loss of lives, it could be tried under Terrorism Act. I'm just making that up now, like an example. And then they were trying Nnamdi Kanu on that based on this, their current charges. So they are charging him on a 2013 Act that has been repealed. It's no longer valid. So there is another one with a different framework that says, those who carried AK-47, those who did this, those who did that. Here you get. So that simply means you can't try somebody that you've held in detention and been tried under a different law. You can't keep him and try him under that same old law. You would have to probably, like, technically, right, they've got no case. Technically. But we all know they never had one. So there's another section of your law, section 36, subsection 12. Listen to this part. It said, subject as otherwise provided by this constitution, a person shall not be convicted of a criminal offense unless that offense is defined and the penalty therefore is prescribed in a written law. Ask them now that what is, like we're asking about the law that they are using to try Nnamdi Kanu. So under this their law, what will be the punishment? Because Nnamdi Kanu needs to know. Do you get me now? Like, they are accusing him of something, right? And he needs to defend himself. How is he going to do that? You have to tell him, outline every section of your law that says, this thing he did is committed a crime here. This one is committed a crime here. Then when you pull everything together, you realize that this is not even a terrorism charges. Here you get. Like by the time you start reading all those things, you are writing that this is not terrorism. This is not terrorism. We say it's terrorism. This is not terrorism. But we need to say it's terrorism. So because you put it out and say, well, let's just say it's terrorism, then we know it's not really terrorism. So here they said directly how this is going to affect Nnamdi Kanu's stand. Directly supports Nnamdi Kanu's core demand. Offenses must be defined in extant current law. He claims the charges fail this, rendering them nullity. Those of you who were reading that Nnamdi Kanu, why would he just say he's not putting up a defense? You heard this whole thing now, right? Did any of this sounded like somebody who didn't know what he's talking about? Are the media and even their judicial correspondents, are this kind of like relaying this to the public and tell them that, listen, look at what your government is doing. This is what your law says, right? And this so far is how they have been treating this person. Somebody they have kept under solitary confinement for so long. I'm talking about for years. He's been limited access. They've limited his access to have, sunlight, fresh air. They limited that. They limited his access to medical care. They limited his access to worship or, practice his own religion in their detention. They have physically assaulted him. They have psychologically tortured him. And they do that to him every day. That is the person Nigerian court is expecting to go and put up a defense. They didn't give him any access to have, his own case file where he could study it, discuss it with his own lawyers. And his own lawyers, right, will take note from him in order to build his defense. All of these have been denied. Then they gave him 5 days to defend himself. Out of that 5 days, 2 days gone, because out of that 5 days, 1 day out of that was used in reviewing his own case, and discovered that, look at these guys, this is a pure waste of time. They've got no case against Nnamdi Kanu. So the judge now said that, okay, if that's going to be your stand, you have to put it into like writing, your address. So, and that is expected, right, from the 4th to the 5th and the 6th of November. So Nnamdi Kanu, they would have the time, because they said his address, this is how they are doing it, to say his address, which will be on the 4th. They will put all of this in a proper address to the court. Say, based on this, based on this, based on this, based on that, address to the court. Say, based on this, based on this, based on this, based on that, I do not have any defense to put up until they can prove that what they are doing now is covered under a certain law. And if then I can put up my defense and call it the witnesses. So the court now says, okay, put that in writing and send it to the prosecution team, the people who are persecuting him, to have this copy. So that when they meet in court on the 4th of November, right, they would expect the opposition, the persecutors, they will be expected to probably present their own address too. And their own address is going to clear the position of Nnamdi Kanu or even validate it. So if they decide to say, no, we are trying you under a right law, the correct law, okay, let your judge, let him decide then, because I've got nothing to say then. So you, Mr. Judge, go back into that constitution then and read all these parts and tell me if I am wrong. Okay, you, Nnamdi Kanu, you are wrong. Okay, fine. So then they go to appeal again. That is what some of these guys are saying, is intentionally delaying them. Delaying who? Delaying criminals that are they don't have any intention of giving him any justice. Are you so kind of like, like so unbothered with truth, right, that you still feel like it should give them what they want? No. They would have to actually use their own hand or their own rope to hang themselves. What is your fear? Oh, they will just send him to jail. Somebody who has been in their detention for more than 10 years, in and out of it. He's not had a normal, proper, a family man, kind of like a relationship with his family because of this. He's not been able to actually witness the burial of his own parents because of this. So do you know how much he's actually lost that you suddenly on social media, you are feeling concerned for him? No, we know it is not about your concern because majority of you don't really care what happened to him, what has been happening to him. It's only once in a while when their media brings all this sensationalized news, which most of the time it is to divert your attention away from the real thing. Imagine if a lot of you actually understands this judicial manipulation, this corruption, and its impact on their entire judiciary image in that contraption. Do you think it won't be a different story? So again, it's got nothing to prove to them.
Welcome to Chammercy News TV.